Is your manifestation taking too long? Well, let me ask you, have you committed to your practice? I know it's a broad question, but your answer has everything to do with your results. So if your answer is no, here's what you can do. Hi there, I'm Adila, your expert in all things manifestation. If you're new here, I'm a manifestation coach helping you create your ideal lifestyle by telling your ideal story. My motto is if I can help at least one person, I have done my job. If you'd like for me to help you create your story that's tailored to your specific desires, head over to my website, thisisyourstory.co, where I offer email coaching and free ebooks to help get you started. Okay, time and time again on my channel, you will hear me stress the importance of practicing daily, creating your desired manifestation practice and practicing daily. What I show you how to do is to create your ideal story. And then with that ideal story, we create an action plan. If you coach with me, you'll know that we have this action plan and I give you tips for the action plan. And it requires you to practice intentionally at least 3 times a day. And it might sound like a lot for doing something new, but it's really not. If you think about it, you just take 3 intentional periods throughout your day and you sit with yourself and you read the story over. You imagine the story and then you affirm that story. A major challenge that people experience during this journey is they feel like their things don't happen in the time that they wish they would. And then you start to like waver and you start to like doubt yourself. You start to doubt the process. You start to think that seek other answers when it's only going to bring you back to that same answer. You have the answer already. I have noticed that if you fail to commit to yourself, committing to the process, you'll get wonky results. It happens to everybody. You know that thing where they say that you build a new habit in 21 days, you consistently do the same thing for 21 days, it becomes like committed to your memory basically. And it's just like that. It's deciding to commit to this practice on a daily basis and carve out time throughout your day. And you're honoring that. You're doing that daily. And it doesn't mean like on day 3, you're like, oh, this doesn't really feel right, or I don't feel like doing this. This is too much. And I'll just go back to what I was doing before, expecting a result. It doesn't work that way. But the thing is, it can work that way once you are deep in practicing. Like there's so many things that happen for me that I just imagine and don't even intentionally like sit down and write out and, really like out of thin air, or just something where I'm like, oh, that would be nice. And it happens for me. I'm telling you, it happens all the time. But that's because at one point, at least in the beginning and in the middle too, I would sit and I would honor my practice. I would sit down, even if it felt, um, sometimes it felt like I was the only one doing this and I was on my own path because I didn't really have a support system. But I would sit and I would script, I would journal, and no one around me was doing the same thing. So it felt kind of like lonely, or it felt like I was on my own journey by myself, but so many things evolved out of it. So I highly recommend it. And when I would kind of waver or like be in a moment of doubting and, like anxious about like, why is this not happening? I'd have coaches. And at the time, that encouraged me to get on a mental diet. I don't really like that term, and I don't know why mental diet. It just doesn't resonate with me. But what I learned is The mental diet is just you honing in on that ideal story. It's you having those ideal inner conversations. It's you sitting with this reality and imagining that it's true for yourself, imagining that this is a possibility, but it's actually happening. It's you accepting it as real for yourself and not pushing it away and not saying that it's impossible. One thing I want to note is that you wouldn't have the desire if it wasn't possible. You would not have the desire if it was not possible. And I always feel like, and this could sound, kind of weird or whatever, but I always feel that there is another version of me saying, Adila, this is not who you truly are. Adila, you do not have to struggle. Adila, you are not meant to worry. We have everything that you could have ever imagined and more. I always imagine that. So I get nudges. I get kind of like not physically poked, but like, ideas, like stuff will just happen and say, and I'll start wanting something and then it'll come to fruition, but it wasn't something that I really even ever thought of previously. That's also because we're just shifting in and out of states. We're moving in and out of different states of our consciousness. So I may wake up in the morning, and I intentionally do this. I wake up in the morning feeling good. I expect my ideal day to happen. And however that happens, I don't really specifically say, oh, I want this to happen today, unless there's something like on my agenda that I want to happen and I have inner conversations about that already. But I just set out to have a good day. I tell my daughter when she's getting out the car to go to school, and I say, you had a great day today and you had the best day ever, and depending on her response or whatever, I'll revise it. But that's how I start my day. I start my days more now with intention. I am intentionally practicing. I'm intentionally saying to myself that everything in my life is going well. I have no problems. And if you think about it, when you say things like that, like if you're operating from a state of everything in my life is going well, your mind wants to automatically find evidence of that. It's how we were humanly designed. Your mind will say, everything's going well. Oh, that's going well. Oh, that's going well too. That's how your mind will filter out your world. It'll filter your experiences into, all the things that are going right versus all the things that you can complain about. But me starting my day like this took a commitment to myself. It was coming up with, like, I have a desire. I had a desire to have a new car. I don't know where it came from. There was nothing wrong with my old car, but it was getting old. And I had this thing where I'm like, oh, after a few years, I always want a new car. But and it's so funny. After I did that, I'm gonna do a different car video because I think how I manifested both of my cars, my last two cars, really need. I need to do that separately. But anyways, um, when I was oh, my car. When I was manifesting a new car, when I made that decision, I was like, oh, okay, I want a new car. I want an electric car. And there was nothing wrong with my old car at first. I had a Mercedes SUV. Um, Nothing was wrong with it, right? But all of a sudden, all of a sudden, it started needing major work. It started cutting off on me. Something was wrong with the engine, and nobody could tell me what was wrong with it. At first, I was trying to go like the inexpensive route and go to like my usual mechanic or whatever. But even the dealership, Mercedes didn't even, they couldn't tell me, well, I think it's this, or it might be this. And I'm like, what is happening? I ended up spending all of this money to repair that car and it still wasn't fixed. So I was forced into getting a new car. But I had to commit to that idea and then practice it, right? So, me deciding, and I told myself all I need to do was just make the decision. So, I've made the decision that I only want an electric vehicle. I'm not going to do a car with an engine. And it was funny because my engine was having problems. I was like, no more engine for me. I don't want any problems. I want to just, have a smooth ride, not have to worry about anything. So I was like, okay, electric vehicle, that narrows it down. Which type of vehicle do I want? And my kids love the Tesla. So I was like, well, maybe if I get a Tesla, but I was on the fence. I hadn't made the decision. And most of the time you'll see when you're manifesting something, anything, it doesn't matter what it is. When you make the decision, the doors just like open. It's so crazy how when you make that decision, all of the answers feel like they just come to you. So it took me a couple months, to be honest. I was on the fence about, should I just repair this car? Should I get a new car? I do like the Tesla, but I've never had an electric vehicle and it kind of didn't feel safe to me. I wanted myself to feel safe. So I started watching videos of people who own Teslas. Then I started seeing videos of people who had just recently got their Tesla and like how excited they were. And then I found out one of my friends used to work for Tesla. So he gave me some insight on the cars. So all of this information that I was seeking started coming to me. So I finally made that decision, right? Then I was like, okay, I'm just going to do a Model 3. What color do I want? And that's it. I've had tons of cars, but for whatever reason, I've never had a white car. And this time I decided to get a white car. I thought it'd be fun. And I love my car. It's so funny. I was like, white, I've never chosen white. I always choose black. I had a gray car before, but I chose white. So after making that decision, I spoke it out loud. I went to lunch with one of my friends and he was talking about cars, and um, I said, I want a Tesla. I think I want a white Tesla. Well, that's what he was asking me, like, what color? I said, I think I want white. And of course, you see white Teslas everywhere, especially I'm in California. So you see them everywhere. But that was the only decision that I really had to make. But then my mind wanted to go to this like logical place, right? My mind was like, all right, now you gotta have the money to buy the car and you got to figure out where you're going to get it from and what's the best price and all of this stuff. And I had to like stop my mind and just script out how the experience was with my new car, because your mind will try to, you know, um, give you all the answers, but sometimes it's just spiraling and it doesn't have a clue. And it's running on an old program, right? And we're consciously creating things. So I know that I can easily manifest a new car without having the money, without, having the typical like credit, all of that stuff. Like, I know how to do this. And all I did was go to the end experience. I took like three things that would change in my life with this new vehicle. One was I was adjusting from having the room of a SUV to a sedan. And so I was imagining myself like driving a little more sporty and imagining the car driving a little faster and driving smooth on the road. That's what I would say. Oh, this ride is so smooth. It's so nice. I really like it. It's so cute. And I would imagine going out to my car in the garage and seeing it there. And I imagined receiving like a message saying welcome to the Tesla family, and having their the black uh car key or whatever in my wallet. Those are the things that I imagine. And I also imagine my kids asking me to borrow it. But that's literally all that happened. I didn't have the money. And I'm trying to be honest. I didn't have the money for it. I didn't have money saved. I make good money, but I just wasn't ready for it, right? Then I was like saying, my logical mind keeps coming in, maybe I'll wait, maybe but my other car was acting up. So I had to kind of, do something fast. Do you see? I just want to make a note that do you see all the back and forth talk about it after saying I made the decision? That chatter was still in there. But I had to remind myself, Adila, you made the decision. You are a Tesla owner now. This is your new car and you love it. I had to continue to tell that story until it manifested into my reality. So what did I do? I wrote it in my journal. I didn't do that much though, but I wrote it in my journal. I wrote it in my phone when I would think about it, but I didn't go out like seeking anything. I just started talking about how this was the easiest car buying process. It was so easy. I love how I bought my car, and all of a sudden, I got an email from my new bank that offered some like auto loan, super low interest deal. I applied and I got it. I was approved. I was approved for way more than what I needed for my car with no money down. I went, bought my car at the dealership, traded in the other car, and that's it. Drove off with my car. That was it. All that mattered was I made the decision and I stuck with the decision and I saw myself with that. And it's the same, it is the same. I will always say it is the same process for every single thing you are manifesting. It doesn't matter if it's a car, it's a person, it's a couch, it's an apartment, a house, it does not matter. It's all the same practice. But you want to practice until you get it right, until become this becomes like your lived experience. Because when I first started like learning about law of assumption, I wasn't practicing consistently, and I would get things would happen, but I wasn't really having like consistent results. But I learned that the more I practiced, the more I stopped wavering. And it didn't take for me to like sit in my house and, like zone out all day and think of that manifestation. It wasn't like that. I would just write things out. I would script out exactly what I wanted, imagine that I had it already, and then the circumstances would just come together. But I want to stay on the subject of commitment because if you think about it, when you commit to this practice, because the practice yields results, right? Everything comes from within you. But if you are just like receiving this new information, you're not going to really own it until you practice it. So, like, for instance, if you read a new book and there was something in the book that was different from what you've learned before, you have to teach yourself that. You have to memorize it and you have to go over it in order for it to commit to memory, in order for it to become your lifestyle. So that's what we're doing here. We're starting a practice to enhance your imagination to where this is just a part of your lifestyle. Now, what's funny is, I think I'll talk about this separately too, but I used to hate scripting and writing down, and now I've turned it into a whole business. It's crazy. Like, and I think it was because I was what maybe it was because what I was writing down, because of what I was writing down. I would have to, write down like all the things that were troubling me and try to switch those around, but it was like in a therapeutic type way. In this way, we are creating a story of how this is like the happiest thing you have ever experienced. So when we're in the story, you're living it and you're feeling it and you're experiencing those emotions that you would be actually feeling in that reality. It's so vivid and it's exciting. So these stories I love. It's not like I'm dreading this practice and sitting down and saying, I don't feel like doing this. It's actually just carving out time and loving myself enough to actually show up for myself. That is essentially all it is. You are saying, I want this, and in order to get it, because it's new to you. It's not here right now. That's how it feels, right? You have to tell yourself it's here. You have to keep going back to that story and telling yourself it's here. And that just takes a little practice. But it's about you prioritizing you committing to showing up for yourself. And when you do that consistently, it'll be very, very hard for somebody to tell you, oh, that's not your person, or oh, you don't have that money, or oh, that's not your car, because you will know. You will have this inner conviction. You will know. Commit to you, show up for yourself, and your entire world will follow. If you like content like this, let me know by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.